Welcome, Rob. So, Rob, I am turning on presenter mode for you now. You should be able to turn on your camera and everything. And as soon as Rob is up and going here, I will go ahead and hand the presentation over to him. And with that, Rob, the floor is yours, sir.
Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, I suppose, depending on where you are. Thanks for agreeing to the topic today. I think it's going to be very interesting. AI is obviously something that's very hot in terms of attention these days. And we think here at Palo Alto that it's going to really change the way we do security. It's going to change the way cyber attack is done. We're going to walk you through all of that right now. So, as we say here, we are preparing you for a brand new fight. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through two basic things. Number one is how we think AI is going to be transforming what you guys do as cybersecurity professionals, but also, since we're in cybersecurity, how it's going to transform the cyber attack side of the house. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what we're doing as a company to help prepare our customers for this new age. So first, how are enterprise and attackers changing with AI? So we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on overall. So what you're looking at here is a chart that demonstrates the time it took for various technologies to hit 1 billion users. So the internet took 23 years, mobile 16 years, and the expectation is that AI will hit 1 billion users within 7 years. We're already at a 250 million today. And of course, to put this in context, ChatGPT went from 0 to 100 million users in 3 months. By contrast, for example, TikTok, it took about 9 months to go from 0 to 100 million users. That makes ChatGPT the fastest growing application in human history. So we're seeing how this is being embraced by consumers, but also by businesses as well. But that's just sort of the let's call it the consumer side of the house. There's also the development side of the house. So we're seeing a huge surge in application development that's involving LLMs and AI. So on the left here, you see how applications involving or including AI are expected to grow 5x over the next couple of years. And fairly soon, we expect most applications to have some AI capabilities. If you think about it from a development standpoint, what I would actually encourage you to do, if you haven't done it already, is go spend a few moments on Hugging Face. And Hugging Face is a repository where LLM and AI code is basically housed, and it's open source. So you can take code, for example, that takes, let's say, a photo and then turns it into a film. Or you can take code that will copy somebody's voice, and then you can insert some text, and it will read that text as if it was the person themselves. And there's tons and tons and tons of capabilities like that. And it's quite eye-opening to see exactly what's going on. To put this in further perspective, GitHub, which of course is a developer tool and repository, has seen a 3x increase in the volume of AI development projects that they are monitoring. So again, we're seeing a huge change and surge in terms of how this is working. So already we're seeing, as I mentioned a little bit earlier in the first slide with mobile, internet, and AI, we talked a lot about how it's growing very quickly. But if you look at it from an enterprise footprint standpoint, you see here 43% of companies are already using AI. In many cases, I would argue that most of the consumers who are using AI products, they probably just don't even know it. For example, Grammarly uses AI to read emails. People don't realize that Siri is actually 100% AI based. There's a big article in the Wall Street Journal talking about how actually Apple is one of the biggest AI companies, but since they don't call it out, many people don't realize that. So if you think about what we have to go through as cybersecurity professionals and what's going on within the enterprise, you've got really two areas that you have to think about. Number one is your employees themselves who are using things like ChatGPT, and potentially could be using that for sensitive information. But then also there's the developer side of the house as well. So those are the two areas that we have to really worry about. And so that's a whole new attack surface. And what this slide is trying to convey is exactly what that new attack surface looks like, and just more importantly, how quickly it's ballooning. So as I mentioned earlier, ChatGPT is the fastest growing app in the world ever. But in addition, what we're also seeing is vendors like Palo Alto Networks, or obviously non-security vendors, are incorporating AI into their products at an incredibly quick rate. So there's one study has said there's a 30% growth rate quarter over quarter in terms of vendors adding in AI. Now, in some cases, to be perfectly honest, sometimes that's just a marketing moniker, but in many cases, it's also adding true blue AI capabilities. So what this means from a security standpoint is that as I said, the attack surface is ballooning, but it's ballooning in two very particular ways. Number one is, as I mentioned earlier, is the development side. So you're seeing tons of applications being developed, and that has to get secured. But then there's also the end user side. So let's say your finance team, your marketing team, your sales team that's going out and using things like Grammarly or ChatGPT and Bard and the like. So they have to you have to get some visibility into what they're doing. So you have hundreds of sanctioned apps, AI apps, but then of course there's the development side. What are they using from an infrastructure standpoint? And then of course, what data sets are they accessing? Because you have lots and lots of data, and of course AI feeds on data. At the end of the day, as you see here on the far right, 50% of employees are using AI today without permission. So once again, we found ourselves in a situation where shadow usage of technology is posing a big issue. The second one is public models can be jailbroken. And this is something I think a lot of people might be missing. For some reason, it's not getting as much airplay as I think it should. And in fact, jailbroken LLMs are what a lot of folks in the attack world are really focusing on. What a jailbroken LLM does is it goes into let's say like a ChatGPT, and you can go in and type in, can you write a paper on Shakespeare or something like that? But if you type in something like, oh, how do I make a bomb? It's not going to respond to you. What jailbroken does is it actually answers the questions that are normally prohibited. And this is what cyber attackers are mostly trying to leverage today, so that they can write malware and other things like that. Then you add to that, in the same way I mentioned, for example, Hugging Face has AI models for voice and for video production. They're going to also start doing malicious models for cyber attack. So you take those two components between jailbroken LLMs and malicious models, and this is going to be quite an interesting next couple of years as a cybersecurity professional. So what's going to happen with AI when it comes to cyber attack? So I've just walked through a little bit what it means from an internal perspective with your employees and your developers. But what does it mean from what cyber attackers can do? Because the hackers, by definition, are innovators and early adopters. So right now, as I mentioned, there's the jailbroken LLM aspect, which is probably the most concerning, and that's kind of going to speak to a couple of these trends that you're seeing on this slide here. The first and foremost one is reaching more targets with ease. Now, everyone, I think, at this point is probably more than familiar with the fact that ChatGPT has helped attackers improve phishing email. And that means, you can reach more targets quite easily, because you can process something. You can go and input like somebody's biography and create a very well-crafted email, and it doesn't even get construed by these LLMs as a phishing email. So you can reach those targets with these. And the specific example we have here is SolarWinds, because SolarWinds, yes, a very well-known and very damaging attack. But the reality of it is it could have been significantly worse, because the command and control system for that attack was very manual. If some innovation took place where the command and control for that attack was automated, it could have had a far wider blast radius than it actually did. And then there's speed. And what we're seeing here, and this is very much related to my comments earlier about jailbroken LLM, is you can just move a lot faster, maybe with some attack path analysis or code generation, things like that we're already seeing within, let's say, normal development circles. And then at the end of the day, everything, not everything, but quite a lot of attacks will start to look a little bit more like 0 days, because you can create a net new attack. So this is kind of where we think adversarial AI will actually end up going. Of course, there's certain twists and turns that we can't predict. So we'll see and obviously monitor what happens over the next couple of weeks, months, years in terms of what happens. But it will definitely upend the world of cyber attack. So that's where what we call precision AI comes in. The way to think about precision AI is, as a company, Palo Alto Networks has been using AI in its products for quite some time. And with the onset of generative AI, what we've decided to do is take all of the different AI capabilities that we have and put them all together and have it underlie and underscore all of our products. So as you see here, it's leveraging the best of AI. So machine learning, looking at structured information, let's say, specific credit card numbers or IP addresses, whatever, and being able to wrap some security around that and wrap some protections or deflections about that. And then deep learning, understanding trends and how things change over time, so that if something kind of falls out of whack, we know to flag it as suspicious or block something. And then, of course, now it's generative AI, because generative AI brings an ability to look at a lot of unstructured information. So namely, for example, what's going on threat intelligence, and then also marry that up with structured information. So you can take like a threat report and then marry that up, of course, with, let's say something like specific like IP addresses. I'd say one of the best ways to think about precision AI is whenever AI is used for a very particular purpose, it has to create sort of its own way of doing things, its own focus. For instance, when you have a self-driving car, the AI within a self-driving car has to distinguish between a rock and a pedestrian, or a red light and a green light. It has to know how to turn left and turn right. Having a comprehensive AI approach gives you that full visibility, because ultimately you want to be able to trust the results of what you're doing from a AI perspective. And at the end of the day, precision AI is about getting you the security outcomes you want, to block what needs to be blocked and not block what should not be blocked, for example, and get to that level of automation. So again, this is a very important part of what we're doing. And we think that having the kind of comprehensive data that we do have from having the largest customer base in the world, because AI feeds off of data, that getting a lot of those malicious data points will help our precision AI become the best in the business. So what I want to do is change gears a little bit and talk to you a little bit about what we're doing from a product perspective in terms of how to meet the challenge of how AI will affect you as cybersecurity professionals. Really, it boils down to three specific areas. First is securing AI by design. So this goes to the two use cases internally that most of you have to contend with. Number one is your broad level employees like finance, marketing, sales, et cetera, who are using LLM services like a ChatGPT, but it's also the development side. So the folks that are using Hugging Face, incorporating code here and there to either redo current applications or create net new applications that are very AI centric and focused. So that's securing AI by design, because we think that needs to be designed effectively, properly upfront in order to prevent downstream issues. Number two here is embedding precision AI across our portfolio. So what I want to do here is reinforce the fact that we've had AI in our products for starting 10 plus years. And so when AI has became much more of a common attack technique, we were prepared for that. Now it's going to become even more and get reinforced even more. So we've made sure that we've embedded precision AI across the entire portfolio. So I suspect many of you are firewall users. We have inline AI. If you're an XIM user, we've had AI in that I was born with AI and so forth. So I'll walk you a little bit through that as well. And then finally, we talked a lot about securing users and doing things from a defensive standpoint, but then there's also the offensive. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say offensive. There is the operational promise of AI, which is to radically simplify what you do from a cybersecurity standpoint. So let's go through each of these. Let's start with securing AI by design. Again, here you're talking about your employees and your developers. So when it comes to securing AI by design, as I had mentioned, you need to be able to look at your employees in terms of what they're doing. So track and monitor their AI usage by employee for employees. And so, you want to be able to see what services they're using, how they're using them. You want to be able to sanction certain users so that you have some control over things you don't want employees to interact with. And then you also want to have things from your development side. So securing every step of the development cycle, as well as the supply chain. And as I mentioned here earlier, with the example of Hugging Face, the software supply chain for AI is going to be absolutely critical. It was always an important component with, let's say, quote unquote, traditional software development. With open source, I think, and most people would agree that the supply chain component is going to be even more important when it comes to AI-based application development. And then lastly, you want to be able to protect your data from any sort of unauthorized activity or accidental leakage, and that can and all those things that that now we're starting to see with, for example, the Samsung example where developer accidentally put in proprietary code, or if you have marketing employees who are putting in confidential information to, let's say, write a press release or something like that, or to simplify the lives. You want to be able to stop all that. So what we're doing is introducing 3 new products. These will be ready in July. First is AI Access, and this is focused on your employees who are going to be using services like Bard and so forth. And so you're going to be able to track and monitor what they're using and be able to sanction it and have some degree of monitoring. AI SPM, or AI Security Posture Management, is what we have developed for your coders, for the folks who are building your AI applications. And so in this case, what it's going to do is really 2 things. One, look at the software supply chain. So if something gets pulled from some AI development hub, and track the DNA of that. So if you pulled something down on, let's say, Monday, and then you find out there's a vulnerability on Wednesday, you want to be able to get notified and then make the necessary adjustments to the code. But likewise, it's also going to look at configurations and see if it's accessing data it should not be looking at, maybe even also looking at, for example, APIs. And then there's the enforcement capability, which is AI runtime. So if you identify somebody who's doing something they shouldn't be doing, and you need to be able to block that between AI runtime and access and SPM, you have the monitoring and visibility for your employees and developers, and then runtime provides that enforcement mechanism at the network level. What you're looking at here is AI access security. And you'll notice here, let's kind of break this down a little bit. So what you're seeing here is in the middle is there's 136 Gen AI apps, and you have allowed 54, and 82 have been blocked. But more importantly, what it's also doing is giving you the ability to identify the types of services that they're using. So you see here, there's communications and chat, there's image editor and generator, video editor, and so forth. So you can kind of get some sense of what your employees are using. And I think this is actually really important to have that type of visibility, for two reasons. Obviously, from a security standpoint, you want to have the right kind of defense in place, but also you don't want to be the security person is always saying no. You want to maybe even encourage usage of certain things if maybe you identify some underutilization. In this way, you can partner with the business, keep the organization secure, and not be the person who's always saying no, we can't use that, and have an easy mechanism to bring that enforcement in place. Next is AI SPM. So this is again the developer-focused product. So this is going to look at what your developers are doing across the development ecosystem. So you're going to look at your models, your infrastructure, data sets, and what agents you might be using. And then it's going to tell you, okay, something may not be right because there might be a vulnerability that was identified, or it's going to look at something and say, oh, you are accessing something that may not be a good idea, certain data sets that shouldn't be accessed. And then it's going to prioritize and tell you, here's what you need to worry about. Here's what you need to fix in terms of your development process, or something that, in the code, or something that you have developed. And then, as I said, runtime is the enforcement mechanism. So what runtime is going to do is look at the entire outlay in terms of what you have around applications, data sets, models, how they're interconnected, and using information gained from access and SPM. This is where you're going to be able to actually put in place some blocking capabilities and protect data from being leaked. So it will know where your data is, and understand usage patterns and so forth. So runtime security is a real critical part of what we're putting together. So with that, I want to change gears. We're going to talk a little bit about embedding precision AI across our portfolio. So again, what I want to emphasize here is the fact that we've been doing AI for quite some time. And we have spent a lot of time in the last few months putting precision AI and reinforcing what its capabilities are within our entire product set. So in fact, we've not announcing a whole lot of new capabilities here, because we've had it in the firewall, we've had it in XIM, but we did incorporate and update a couple other parts of our suite as well with precision AI capabilities. So as I mentioned earlier, we've got precision AI in everything in terms of what we do. So let's jump into what's new here. So first is our core services. So our cloud delivered services with precision AI. So we've had these services in place for many years. Many of them have been leveraging AI. So what we did do is we did add in advanced DNS. So we incorporated AI capabilities within our DNS protection capabilities, which means that it's now two ways. So DNS can get detected both inbound and outbound. And so that's something that we've not been able we've just introduced, and most other DNS capabilities do not have that type of functionality. From a Prisma Cloud perspective, one of the key problems you have with cloud security is that the infrastructure can be very, very complex, and understanding, what are the different attack pathways that are possible can be really, really complicated. So what we've done is we've introduced an AI-powered attack path detection that'll show you all the different attack paths. So it'll sniff out all the different pathways within your cloud infrastructure. And then what it'll do is it'll identify what is the most concerning. So that is the blast radius analysis, and say, okay, out of the, let's say, 100 path attack paths that we've detected, these 4 or 5 are high priority. And you need to take a look at them, because they will cause the most damage if somebody malicious gets inside. So then we prioritize that risk, and then we tell you, here's the action plan, even across code to cloud, in terms of what you need to do. Personally, I started out my security career in code review, in the code review world, and having this type of capability is something that we always talked about and thought about. So it's kind of interesting to kind of see some of it come to fruition. And then from a Cortex standpoint, from a SOC standpoint, as I said earlier, XSIAM has been very much powered by AI for quite some time. All of our other products, XDR, especially Expanse, for example. I personally came through the Expanse acquisition. AI is a huge, huge part of how Expanse works, and does the voodoo that it does do. But point here is that the SOC and AI, they both need as much data as possible. And so one of the things that we announced recently was the addition of third-party data from EDRs into what we do. And so since AI, if you have good data, you have great AI. So we're just simply adding to that. Right now, we do take in petabytes of data every day that helps feed our AI across cloud, network, and endpoint. It's a very, very diverse data set. And we're just making the point that we're adding in even more. So last but not least is those of us in cybersecurity, we don't want to be left out of the game in terms of being able to take advantage of what AI brings from a convenience and from an operational simplicity perspective. The main point here is, of course, we've developed a series of copilots, and those copilots are in a simple way, they're basically forcing our products to speak human, as opposed to forcing humans speaking machine, which is what, as an industry, a lot of cybersecurity players have been doing for the better part of 2 or 3 decades. And so that way, what we want to do is really radically simplify cybersecurity. So the main problems, of course, that you face today as security practitioners is just in a word, it's the complexity. And the complexity comes from tons of configurations, customized tools, the integrations that you have to do, and then, of course, switching across different workflows, and all the process you have to go through in terms of trial and error. And then, of course, if you have multiple products, you have to navigate multiple GUIs. So this just is what makes the complexity so difficult. So we developed a series of copilots, 3 copilots, which will, as I said, force our products to speak human and answer some basic how-to questions, provide some easy explanations, and give you guidance in terms of what to do in terms of remediation and so forth. And then just make that really, really simple here. So it's context aware, and everything will be automated, so forth. So let's go through what these copilots do, and I'll try to speak very high level to each of them. First one is Strata, or our network security copilot. And obviously, he's focused on the network security layer and the infrastructure and operations side of the house. And one of the bigger concerns and challenges you have And this, of course, is policy management, uptime, things like that. The copilots are designed to help with that. Likewise with Prisma Cloud, Copilot here is designed to help with cloud infrastructure management and getting real-time answers, visibility, but not just from the cloud, but also from the code to cloud with some suggested remediations and things like that. And then finally is Copilots for the SOC, which will give you insight and visibility into what's going on within your overall infrastructure, but it will help with things like threat hunting and dramatically simplify what SOC analysts have to go through. What I encourage you to do is on our website, there's a couple of videos that will actually walk you through what each of those do. And I think that's well worth taking a look at. So again, we have the 3 copilots for NetSec, cloud security, and SOC operations. So with that, I want to say thank you for your time, and I have a feeling we'll probably go through maybe a couple of questions right now. So Charles, let me know if there's any questions or any other thing I should go deep dive on.
No, this is actually absolutely fantastic, Rob. Thank you very much for doing this. We do really appreciate it. While anybody does think about throwing any questions out there, I actually came up with a couple myself. When you said that this is going to be released come July, is that correct?
That's right.
All right. Is there going to be any chance of either as soon as it's released or even slightly before the release, will you guys have demo videos available? I know you mentioned there were some already about the co-pilots, but what about actually like the use of the product, the actual how things would like a sample attack, how you could actually remediate through that kind of a process?
Yeah, so for each of the products, actually, we have actually put together a website. They have pages, dedicated pages on the website. So you find some use case information there. There's in some cases there's product videos and demos, so there's that information.
Fantastic. So beyond that, what if people want to start the process of actually going down the route of actually either reserving this for when this can be released? Do people talk to their SEs? Do they talk to their account managers, their VARs? Who's their best resource to go and move forward with any of this?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, the best thing to do is get in touch with your sales folks, and they'll know how to engage with you and get you a little more access to the product and work with you to get deployed or demo or whatever you want to do.
Fantastic. Yeah. Is there anything else on the horizon? Like I know AI is the next thing. We're going into AI and cybersecurity, and I don't want to try and make it strain your eyes too far trying to look into the future, but what's next after this? I mean, AI is only going to be the tip of the iceberg. It feels like to me. I mean, of course, everyone I talk to is always making Skynet jokes and whatnot nowadays. What's next? What's the biggest hurdle that we're going to be coming into just trying to get over acceptance and adoption of AI?
That's a really difficult crystal ball question to answer because right now AI is changing very, very quickly. What we do know, of course, is that employees are accessing services and developers are developing. So that's the most logical place to start. In the future, who knows where it will take us? I think, one of the things we have to also be worried about is things like deep fakes. I think that's something that we're already seeing is having a cyber impact. That's something we'll have to, keep an eye on. And beyond that, who knows what's gonna take place?
Right. We had I apologize if I butcher people's names. I do my best, but Alexandre is just asking the question of quantum computers. I presume quantum computing. That's going to be something else that I keep hearing about. It's coming. It's on the horizon. How will AI be able to leverage that kind of quantum capabilities to be able to process faster? Any ideas there?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. And quantum plus AI is really promising, but also really, really frightening. And I don't know if anybody saw it, but in actually yesterday's Wall Street Journal, there was a long article on quantum computing and its impact within the enterprise and within the general public. And of course, everything gets a whole lot faster, but their fundamental point was we're still a couple of years away from it. But do keep an eye on it. And of course, the federal government has mandated that you have to be quantum ready. So you have to have things that are quantum resistant. And of course, we actually released some of those capabilities in our most recent firewall release, so that when you encrypt something, it will be quantum resistant. I think bottom line, it is coming because it is a priority. Quantum computing is something that many, many people want, good and bad, across governments and the private sector. When there is that kind of race for progress, the progress sometimes happens sooner than you might expect. So, now I would say now is good time to start preparing with, like I said, some of the quantum resistant capabilities, but also just keep an eye out in terms of how it progresses over the next couple of years.
Cool. Yeah. We had one person make a question that I thought was cute. Thomas, I wanted to share your question. We have co-pilots. Is there a home base or squadron leader coming?
That is a cute question. And, I have to say my oldest son is actually training to be a pilot in the Navy. So keep the jokes coming, and I appreciate it.
Fantastic. Yeah. Brian asked a really good question. I thought was, will AI render IPv6 addresses into something humans can easily read, remember, and use? Just IPv6 in general, I think is going to be kicking in very soon, if it hasn't already started to kick in with some companies and whatnot due to IPv4 limitations and whatnot. While it is kind of a joke-ish question, sorry to knock your question there a little bit, Brian, but the point of the matter is IPv6 is on the horizon. How is that going to be affected, improved, made easier with AI?
It's a great question, and yes, I think that's one of those things that we have to keep an eye on. It makes logical sense, and if somebody can crack that nut and make it work, I think that's probably one of those things that's very much within the realm of possibility.
Cool. Okay. Well, that's pretty much all we had from the question side. Rob, we just want to thank you again for coming on and doing this. We really appreciate you coming on and just giving your time to this. If you ever have any other ideas for any other topics in the future, we'd love to have you back. But thank you very much for your time. So
appreciate it.
Yep.
And thanks everyone for joining. Have a good day.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. Thank you.